Hello, fellow Star Trek fans. This is your host, Brent Justice. Welcome to my channel, Brent Justice, and today I bring you another 10-minute review of Star Trek Picard. This is episode number 6, The Impossible Box. We are now more than halfway into this series. We are on the down-sliding scope toward the end. We now have, we have less episodes to go than we started with, if that makes any sense. We're on that downslope towards the last episode. So let's see what's happening in the series. What's happening in each episode? Are we making enough progress? Are enough things happening on screen? Or are we just digging ourselves into a slow pace? Yeah, once again, I have to mention the pacing. Oh, by the way, spoilers. That's right, beyond this point, there are spoilers, so watch your step. So once again, I do have to talk about the pacing. The pacing in this episode was all over the place again. I felt last episode it picked up and was better. This episode, we seem to have gone back down to an all over the place kind of pace. Many things I felt were dragged on too long, and I was really wondering if they'd actually accomplish anything in this episode. But then, yes, they did. But not until the last 10 or 15 minutes of the episode did it really feel like things were happening. And that's the problem. Because then when things happened, it was at a rapid pace. So fast, in fact, it was actually a little hard to keep up with. I think what they could have done is to stretched out the end a bit more and reduced time in some of the longer drawn-out scenes earlier in the episode. If they had created a better balance there, I think the end of the episode would not have felt as rushed and rapid, and I think the beginning to middle would not have felt so long and drawn out. Again, it's a pacing issue, and they seem to have a real problem with that. But after watching this episode, one thing is for sure, I once again continue to hate Raffi as a character. She's mean, she's disgruntled. All I see her as is a drug user, drunkard, vaping person. I don't know how else to describe her. She's a drug-induced drunkard. And that's all I see her as. That's how they portrayed her in this episode. She's gone backwards and started drinking again. So that's all I see her as, because that's all they've displayed her as. She's very one note. She did have a little bit of a redeeming moment at the end where she realized the Romulans want something out of Soji, but those few seconds of that realization from her is not enough to redeem the character for me, not yet. So I still don't like her. That's just my opinion. You may disagree, but I don't like her. Now, I also really did not see the need for the Rios and Doctor sexual vibe thing. I guess it wasn't really a sexual vibe, it was more she just wanted a release. But that was minutes wasted of screen time, in my opinion. Unless it leads to something that we don't know in the future, then I don't see how that scene has anything to do with the story. And I don't know what it's going to mean for anything, because if it has no impact, if it doesn't mean anything, then that was just wasted screen time. I don't care about them having a little flaunt. I don't care. That just, okay, that great, wonderful, whatever, move on. Obviously she's acting weird because she killed Maddox, and I get all that. It's just that that little thing was just unnecessary. It just didn't add to the story. Now, one big plot hole that I'm already seeing out of this episode is, I'm going to call it out right now, why hasn't the EMH been called to activate and say anything? Because we know that he did activate and saw this doctor killing Maddox. So why haven't they called the EMH, who would be a professional on the medical matters, and ask him what happened? Instead, they rely on the doctor's testimony as to what happened. But wouldn't they call on the EMH and say, medically, what happened to him? Is she right? Is this what happened? And then he would say, no, she did it. Why isn't the EMH being called upon here? It's like they've totally forgotten that the EMH exists. I mean, big problem here. Big problem with that. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people are going to ask that question, what about the EMH? He saw her, but this episode, it's like they just forgot it exists. Now, let's get to the stuff on the cube here. I think the Romulan's name is Narek, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, forgive me. But the one who is trying to figure out what's going on with Soji and her dreams and all. That whole sequence was really great that they went through. I like the fact that he wanted to push her, but not too far, that it would activate her until he needed to get what he needed. And then after he got what he needed, he just didn't care and tried to kill her. It worked out perfect. I think his plan was well executed. And it looks like that they did find the planet or base that she was constructed on, where maybe others are. The problem, though, and the question I have, is I thought we heard Maddox say that they destroyed his base. But maybe he has another one. Maybe this is another base where he has more androids. I mean, it very well could be. But I liked all that stuff about her, Soji, and Narek, and her discovering that she's not who she thinks she is, or she's not what she thinks she is. I think she could have taken it a little farther. I would have liked to have seen her try to scan herself with that device, or get a medical tricorder and try to scan herself. I would have liked to have seen something like that, or maybe even go as far as to take like a pointy object and stick it in her hand and see if she's real or not. Something like that could have been neat. But otherwise, I liked her exploration of trying to figure out if all the things around her are real or not. They're only 37 or something like that months old, about 3 years old. I liked all that discovery, and all that she was doing there was very, very well handled. And you could see her decline into her finally accepting what's around her. It was really, really cool stuff. I loved Picard reconciling and dealing with being assimilated, having PTSD basically. The way they handled all that was really great. The flashback scenes were really neat. We saw on the display before, when he was in the holodeck, we saw some old pictures show up on there that were really cool. We saw an old picture of him assimilated. And that picture where they put his face on that picture from behind was brilliant. That was brilliant filming. That was a powerful moment. I loved that. And then I think we even saw a picture of the Enterprise E fighting the Borg cube in First Contact. I think that was one of the first images that came up on the display. We saw it from behind. It was like a behind the shot view of the Enterprise E coming in toward the Borg cube. That's cool. I love that. So seeing those things really solidifies, makes you nostalgic for the older Star Trek. But I do hope that's not the only Federation ship that we see in the series. Wouldn't it be funny if through this whole series we never see any other Federation ships except that one little brief screenshot of a Federation ship? That would be terrible. Okay, I have to say, Picard and Hugh meeting was powerful. I'm not gonna lie, I shed a little tear. My eye teared up. Okay, one of my eyes, my Borg eye, one of my eyes teared up when Picard met Hugh, and Hugh being so willing to help Picard, totally on our side, totally on Picard's side. The loyalty there is astounding, and I love it. Really, really powerful emotional stuff. I have to give kudos to both the actors there for that scene. That was amazing. That made the episode for me, that meeting there. I also like the idea of Hugh knowing how to access another part of the cube that others cannot, like the Queen's chamber, where naturally there'd be something to allow her to escape. What a great idea. It does seem a bit Deus Ex Machina, in the sense that there was this device that lets them escape just when they need it. However, it was explained that the Borg assimilated a race that had that technology, and that's why the Borg Queen had it. So that is what Borg do, is assimilate technology. So that, at least it made sense, and they explained it, which I'm totally thankful for. Now, I do recall something about that device, a trajector device in a Voyager episode. And I forgot the name of the episode, but they find this planet, and they are able to use these like trajectors that literally can go 30 or 40,000 light years away and instantly, and transport you there. And I think what happens in the episode is they want to try to steal the device, and Tuvok is the one that ends up stealing the device, and they actually use it and get a little bit farther for it. And it's a whole big, morality thing. But really good episode, by the way. Now, if that's the race that they're referencing, that the Borg assimilated and stole that technology from, that would be really cool. And if so, good on them. I don't know if it is. I also realized that there might have been a missed opportunity there to make that an Iconian gate. And they could have explained that by saying that the Borg had assimilated an Iconian gateway. And that's where they got the technology from. That would also make sense and be another good tie-in with the show. And also, it could explain why the Borg cube shut down, because the Iconians have these computer viruses. They're well known for these probes and these computer viruses that can shut down systems. Wouldn't it be something if the Borg had assimilated something Iconian that ended up, totally destroying or shutting down the submatrix or whatever in the Borg cube? That would have been a great tie-in. But then I guess the gateway wouldn't have worked, so I don't know. But anyway, I'm just trying to make some connections in my own neural net. And so toward the end of the episode is really where all the good stuff begins, once Soji is, quote, activated, and Picard meets up with her, and then they try to escape, and they do escape. All that toward the end of the episode made the episode much better. If that had not been in this episode, it wouldn't have been as good. It would have been a slow episode. But again, all the good stuff didn't happen until 10 or 15 minutes into the episode, or at the end of the episode, and then it was exciting. And before that, by the middle of the story, I was kind of worried that not much was going to happen this story. But then it did right at the end. Then it just went too fast, and I need to rewatch it because it went a little too fast. So if they could adjust the pacing and the timing and move some scenes around, I think this would have been balanced better. But otherwise, I did quite enjoy the episode by the end of it. Like I said, I was worried about the middle way through, but then by the end of it, I did enjoy it. And so I am going to rewatch it because it does make me want to rewatch it because it was so fast-paced at the end, so I'm going to do that. But I'm going to give this episode an A- for all that. I think it was enjoyable finally by the end, if not a little rushed by the end. So an A- for this one, and it makes me want to watch the next one. That's really the key thing here, is now I got to see what happens next. And I'm really excited for what happens next. So it does make me want to come back for more. And that is what a TV show should always do. So that is my 10-minute review for Episode 6, Impossible Box. And that is another one down. We now have 7, 8, 9, 10. Only 4 more episodes to the end of this season. What's going to happen? If they don't pick up the pace, not a lot. So we'll see. But I don't know where it's going to end. It's certainly been an interesting series, so I'm looking forward to it continuing, and let's see what happens. Let me know what you think below in the comments of this episode. If you like what you see in this video, subscribe to the channel and like the video, and I will have more of these. And in the future, I will go back and I am going to rewatch the whole series and do a further analysis on each episode, a much longer analysis. And I'll go screen by screen or scene by scene and talk about things much more in depth in another watch through of the series. So if you want to see that in the future, subscribe, and I will get that done after a while. So there you go, everybody. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Check out Twitter at Brent_Justice for updates. You can follow me there. Also, check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/Brent Justice. This helps support the channel and also allows me to publish more and more videos.